Our people don't speak like this anymore. Our people don't think like this anymore. No, instead of caskets, we used our mother tongue to bury our ancestors. Mogu mogu, mulora muloreng, neli marapone, kiri abuele menye. Ah, kona mabari bari, alimila bukani, melo kele bari, la usenu la lama kagani, people la jakagari, ali rari, kila musimari, lirweli kishamari. And these are conversations of back home where I come from. As oral tradition is passed on, Kadi Kadi everybody was similar good morning in our Linamko, Johnson Bigray and Lenny. As Lisa Masina in the Marapu, because poetry and storytelling is our tradition, is a ritual of our own heritage. So the get on,
Greetings, Lochan, Sanbonan, Dumelang, Huyedas, Sianibusel, Molwe, Abushe, Towel, Mamkase, Professor Nkondo, our guest speaker for today, the Chairperson of the Freedom Park Council, Mr. Ronnie Makopo, our entertainers, Karaba Imperials, viewers and listeners, warm greetings. It is a pleasure and an honor to address you on this significant day in our country. National Heritage Day is a treasured day in the hearts and minds of our citizenry. It is a day in which South Africans reflect, contemplate, and appreciate the nation's diversity, also remembering their heritage liberation. As Freedom Park, while we live heritage every day, we long for this day when we are one with the whole nation, getting them to remember with pride who they are and where they come from. We have to continuously remind the nation, ourselves, as a people, of the significance of our heritage. The celebration of Heritage Month has created a conducive environment for all people to embrace and celebrate what was inherited or bequeathed to us by our forebears. However, the value of heritage in South Africa is volatile. While government has recognized its significance in nation building and has invested in this symbolic capital to address the deficit of the past and produce a more inclusive South African history, unfortunately, there are still challenges related to how we celebrate and understand heritage. Rather than presenting a strong united conservation unit, this heritage system tends to be underdeveloped, under-resourced, and at times uncoordinated. Therefore, we need to recognize the need to transform the heritage sector such that the heritage resources are equally accessible and beneficial to all South Africans. This year, we celebrate this day under the theme, Celebrating South Africa's Living Human Treasures. The question of living human treasures is very relevant, since it is acknowledged that most of what still needs to be excavated, coded, and stored is available from the many living archives. The rationale is to recognize tradition bearers and practitioners and giving them an opportunity to contribute to the transmission of the knowledge and skills to the younger generations. This should foster a greater social cohesion, nation building, and a shared national identity. It is also important to acknowledge people while they're still alive. The year 2020 is the year in which Freedom Park celebrates its 20-year anniversary. During these 2 decades, many people contributed to making Freedom Park what it is today, and it will be remiss of us not to acknowledge them. The milestone achievements that have not been in short supply to Freedom Park, the awards, the accolades, and also the high-profile visits. And all this is because of these custodians and wisdom keepers of our heritage and knowledge. The many accolades that we won in terms of the design, the aesthetics, the architecture, was because we learned from the organic intellectuals themselves. Individuals like Grace Masuku, who ensured that our museum reflects our heritage with the marks that are educational. Mrs. Jane Kohokoza of Mpumalanga, and also Gok Lizinkosi from Mamelodi, who made sure that we preserve our indigenous plants within the park. People like Reverend Gift Miran and Baba Solundu, who have guided us on the issues of spirituality, and Mama Helen Sibidi and Manoria Mawasa on our art and craft, and many, many other individuals and wisdom keepers who made Freedom Park what it is today. Let us remember that ultimately the sustenance of the nation's heritage will depend very much on the importance which the public places upon it. Our living human treasures are our heritage assets, and once lost, they cannot be replaced. Particularly in South Africa, where diversity is the primary peg of our nationhood, we need to use our diverse cultures and heritage to continuously adapt to our environment. They say knowledge is power, but if we don't know our own knowledge systems, we will never be able to rebuild or renew our continent. Identifying our own heritage, our indigenous knowledge systems, and the ability to control it, the ability to apply it, the ability to reproduce it, and the ability to adapt it is key to our survival as a nation. It is only a people who know their history and identity that can make a meaningful contribution towards rebuilding their nation and the continent. We need to protect, preserve, and promote the content and heritage which resides in Orecha in order to make it accessible and dynamic, but most importantly, we need to assist the family in its traditional role as the custodian of social and cultural values recognized by the communities. The first living human treasures are within our families. We must realize the importance of talking to our grandparents and our parents about our cultural traditions to enrich our lives. One may ask a question, and I think this is the question that I want to pose to the audience. When was the last time you sat down with your children and told them about who they are and where they come from? And also the same can be posed to the children, the young generations. When was the last time that you sat with your grandparents and your parents and asked them, who am I? Where do I come from? And what is my family's history and heritage? This is a challenge that I think we need to take if we want to develop a sense of pride of who we are as a people and where we come from. I do believe that my generation's mistake is that we don't want to teach our children our heritage because we want them to speak eloquent English and learn about other people's heritage. We want our children to use perfect tenses in English and grammar while they cannot do the same in their mother tongues. And this is one challenge that I think we need to address as we celebrate our heritage. Freedom Park's mandate fits in perfectly with the 2020 Heritage Day theme, the theme of South Africa's living human treasures. Since the issues relating to indigenous knowledge systems is key, oral history, cultural diversity, social cohesion, reconciliation and peace, restoration, preservation and conservation, and protection of our heritage is the cornerstone of Freedom Park. We honor these living human treasures on a daily basis through programs like Youth in Dialogue with the Elders, our veterans, and our organic intellectuals. Furthermore, our Pan-African archives are discursive and dialogic in nature. And this is because we seek to identify, acquire, and collect and preserve the original and unique records based on memories of individuals. These memories are articulated in the form of dialogues and are captured, recorded, and treated as documents like in any other written form or record. When we celebrate the living treasures, it means we are celebrating the positive and influential contribution made by certain persons in ensuring sustainability in life. It is not stressed enough, I believe, because heritage should be of service to society. The value which we attach to human living treasures is in their value to society. And also in challenging situations, South Africans should consult their human living treasures for support, strength, and wisdom. Consequently, as we are confronted with the present war against the COVID-19 pandemic, we need to find out how the living treasures can contribute to the present challenges facing our society. We should ask them, how did Africa deal with such epidemics with such limited resources? To a point that the impact was not as compared to the developed countries. Answering such questions will locate solutions in Africa and deal with the present situation where Africa is viewed as consumers of ideas and not as a place where solutions come from. As we celebrate our human living treasures, we need to know that the struggle and resistance against marginalization of Africa and its contribution to world stage is not a new one, but it takes new forms every day. Africa should fight for the space to present its knowledge and represent itself in providing solutions for the world. When COVID-19 emerged in the global space, academics and soothsayers warned about the carnage which was to befall Africa. But the latest question asked by some of the researchers is, how did Africa survive this calamity? Maybe the solutions lies in African heritage, be it medical heritage or broadly our African knowledge systems. Today, as we celebrate our human living treasures, we need to keep in our minds the ongoing struggle of locating our knowledge at the center, rather than being comfortable with the present situation where African knowledge and its producers are at the periphery. I would like to wish you a happy, wonderful, and educational heritage day. I thank you.
Good morning, colleagues. Thanks very much for making space for me to once again share my views and ideas about the meaning of heritage in this country. I want to start out by commending the Council of the Freedom Park, the CEO and also management for managing a very complex problem. I'll touch upon briefly, because it's a very, very broad subject. I want to touch upon briefly, roughly perhaps, on what, in my opinion, constitutes the key elements of heritage in this country, particularly heritage that underpins our sense of freedom and justice. One, the values that underpin our social relations, how we imagine ourselves in the world, how things go on between us and others. Such is our heritage. It lives in us. Two, these values are not expressed in abstract theoretical terms. They are carried out in images, in stories, in legends, in music, in the arts, and also in our knowledge system. 3. These values, embodied in cultural and artistic forms and practices, are the possession not of a tiny minority, but are shared by all communities, which makes possible common practices and are widely shared and have a great deal of legitimacy. 4. This complex of values, practices, incorporates a sense of the normal expectations that we have of each other. The kind of common understanding which enables us to carry out the collective practices which make up our society. 5. After centuries of Western domination, this complex of values and practices still enables our grasp of our predicament, how we still stand to each other, how we got to where we are today, and how we relate to the West and the rest of the world. 6. So in a real sense, this complex is grounded in a sense of place, of location in the world, a sense of belonging. It has a history and a political geography. This opens broader perspectives on where we stand in global space and time, our relations to other nations and civilization. 7. Of historical significance is the resilience and adaptiveness of our normative framework, surviving slavery and apartheid. Remarkable is the sense of order, the sense of form, of symmetry, of design, of balance and harmony one finds and feels in our arts and music, the creative energy that marks our history and survival. 8. This, by the way, is more than aesthetics, more than mere form and sound. It manifests itself in the complex dialogue, in the creative processes between the head, the body, the heart, the mind, the imagination, and the spirit that characterizes our art, our music, and technologies, which the West still fails to comprehend. You can't comprehend, colleagues, that dynamic link between the head and the mind, the heart, and spirit. They think our art and our design is just a mere repetition, something mechanical. Karthas Similia, Lekan Bulu, Itikan Tuli, Esther Matsanga, Madosini Paseni, Uma Katrina Esau, Jauke, Wally Sirote, Don Matera, Oswald Mchali, Makosa Zana Kawa. In their work at its best, one finds a delicate interaction between thinking, feeling, attitude, and action. This dialectic continues to elude Western scientists and philosophers. At the core of Africanism, at the core of African arts, at the core of African knowledge systems is a vital energy to affirm our humanity, our right to freedom and justice, and our will to agency and self-definition. It is there in our idioms, it is there in our proverbs, it is there in our folk tales, our rituals, our ceremonies. It is there in our festivals and elegies and rites of passage. It is celebrated in villages, townships, informal settlements, and so on. We may not have had the technology to harness energy and so make things better in the world. But no other moral philosophy is as deep as Ubuntu. This is an essential part of our heritage. It lives in us. And the world now is working out how to visualize it as protocols. So a major contribution to world civilizations as a continent is the moral wisdom whose name is repeated. Even now, the United Nations has accepted it as a framework for policy in terms of. In the wall of remembrance, Freedom Park seeks to tell the story of our history, of the paths by which we have arrived where we are, the complex routes by which we came to our liberation in 1994. On that wall, we find guidelines for fundamental change. On that wall, the past is revealed to us how the future can be built. We find within the struggle experience the resources to read the present, extricate ourselves from neo-colonial suppression, and forge a more just world. On that wall are inscribed traditions of revolution, of freedom and justice, all driven by the passion to recognize the humanity in all of us. The wall of remembrance makes a profound statement. The apartheid colonial system has been transformed to an extent. It has marked a significant change which entailed a measure of violence. It has sought legitimacy in a democratic law, a pre-colonial past, and a brand new future. It took more than one generation to establish roots. Eventually, it produced a new system of law, which embodies some of the major proposals of the liberation movement, going back to the Freedom Charter, and which changed the apartheid legal tradition, but which, to an extent, remains within the tradition. I want to underline this in red ink, which remains within the tradition. But the spirit of protest, the will to justice, have been abroad since 1994. That democratic surge manifests itself in a variety of ways, in the form of marches, rolling mass action, strikes, petitions, sit-ins, demonstrations, and so forth. Animating all of these democratic struggles, deep down, is the passion for freedom and justice, which in the arts and in the music take the form of symmetry. It takes the form of rhythm, of proportion, of balance, of melody, of design, of shape, and so on. I'm trying to say the aesthetic forms, melody, design, symmetry, balance, proportion, are just artistic expressions of democracy, of freedom and justice. So there's an organic link between our aesthetics and our politics. I said that to the Minister of Sport that the problem we're having in this country, that most people, even the general public, still reduces arts and heritage to mere aesthetics, to kind of after dinner, preoccupation. The uses of the arts and music and of heritage in general are so many and so various that it is almost impossible to catalog them, ranging from the way we feel as individuals and the way we manage our lives, the way we mediate relationships between each other. They are a force for social cohesion and solidarity across different systems. No other department in government, no other discipline in universities has that inspiring, power of the arts, creating a sense of feeling, of sense of belonging to each other. Not history, not mathematics, not engineering, nothing. It is only in the arts that we have this creative energy, this power to make us feel one with each other, to make us recognize each other in each other. No other sector in government has that creative power. Through them, we experience deep emotion, communicate with each other, validate our institutions, and reinforce our sense of the past and the possibilities of social cohesion and solidarity. This creative energy, this vital force, is fundamentally antagonistic to all systems that continue to spawn conditions that perpetuate poverty, unemployment, and inequality. No amount of power has been able to rid us of these conditions. I grew up in Soweto. Even in the heydays of the party, we found ourselves dancing to some melody in shebeens and taverns, and so on and so on. In a profound sense, our heritage, broadly conceived, arises from the need, the necessity of intercourse with other people. Private and personal, though they seem at times. They are public, they are social, and they are profoundly political. Beyond dance and song, they are profoundly political. And they are held together by language. Through and through, they are essentially social, not abstract, not transcendental. They are practical and pragmatic. I've been a professor of English for over 50 50 years. And I can say now, here in England, the States, that there's nothing intrinsically superior in English. What makes English superior is the support it gets from the British pound and now the American dollar. It is the proper economy of capital that it gives English its universal superiority. But intrinsically, it's no better than Zonga, Brenda, and so on. To sustain this deep sense of our humanity, Freedom Park has mounted the wall of remembrance as an integral part of the new national symbolic system to create a new political geography and should not be confused with a space as mere entertainment. Borrowed from Africa, it borrowed from Egypt, it borrowed from Greece, going forward, particularly in our encounter with the pandemic, we must bond with each other in a global heritage and solidarity. Nothing less to suffice. The West is here permanently, and so is Asia. What is urgent and necessary is an inclusive democratic order within which different heritage systems learn from each other and complement each other. Particularly in our encounter with the pandemic, which seems indifferent to traditional sensitivities, to our identity boundaries and differences. Finally, of all the moral knowledge systems in the history of humanity, it is Ubuntu that is increasingly accepted as the normative framework of the future across the entire international space. Thanks a lot.
Professor Nkondo, former Freedom Park Council member, members of Freedom Park Council, Freedom Park CEO, Ms. Jane Mufamadi, our viewers, I greet you all. My unparalleled gratitude and appreciation from the very onset are directed to the leadership of our country, in particular our President and the collective, and the Minister of Sports, Arts and Culture, Minister Nathi Mthethwa, for their sterling leadership and unwavering support under the COVID-19 pandemic period. This year's National Heritage theme is titled Celebrating South Africa's Living Human Treasures. It depicts what Freedom Park, a national heritage whose main mandate is to honor the heroes and heroines who sacrificed their lives for the liberation of our country. This year, Freedom Park celebrates 20 years of its anniversary. In celebrating the 20 years of existence, it is a pleasure to note several achievements in the operations of Freedom Park, such as the inscription of more than 139,000 names of our heroes and heroines on the Wall of Names, which is our main heritage. The Pan-Africanist Archives, through a series of dialogues in which they engaged justices like Dikgang Moseneke, Yvonne Mukoro, Albi Sachs, Richard Goldstone, Johan Krechler, as well as Advocate George Bezos before he passed on. The Pan-Africanists also engaged a member of the Rivonia trial, Dennis Goldbeck, and many other freedom stalwarts. The dialogues also included another series on women freedom fighters entitled Flowers of the Nation of the Revolution, in which women freedom fighters, the likes of the current Minister of State Security, Miss Ayanda Kloko, were engaged. Freedom Park Hapo Museum is a storage of numerous living treasures, such as the artifacts that were used by our ancestors pre-colonial rule. Freedom Park is currently a temporal storage for the African National Congress Nkondo Wesizo Radio Freedom, which is indeed a living treasure. Freedom Park, in its quest to inculcate nation building to the citizenry and indeed our heritage, has from time to time engaged various embassies and like-minded institutions in public lectures and seminars, such as the one with the Embassy of Zambia on the former President Kaunda. One would have thought that during this unfortunate pandemic period of COVID-19, Freedom Park would cease to rise to the occasion and thereby lose its heart-and rapport to our communities and indeed our global village. That was not the case. The organization was rock solid and came up with differentiation strategies to deliver service to the public. It was awesome to witness the organization timelessly celebrate its 20 years anniversary, National Youth Day, and Women's Day commemoration events. On the 27th August, the CEO, Ms. Jane Mufamadi, was one of the 18 presenters on the roundtable of civil BRICS, that is Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, Unity, wherein she presented several topics such as the role of museums, the importance of international cultural exchange to the global community, etc. It was remarkable, informative, and indeed refreshing to watch the political liberation heritage visual dialogue on the 19th of September 2020, in which the Minister of Sports, Arts and Culture, and our CEO and Ambassador Tenjiwe Mtinso and Christine Kunta participated. On the 21st September, Freedom Park opened for business. It is all systems go. There could not have been a more opportune time to open the National Heritage Monument just few days before the National Heritage Day commemorations. We indeed look forward to receiving you as our guests, and let me take this opportunity to remind you that on that particular public holiday, the Heritage Day, entry is free to all. Today on National Heritage Day, as usual, it is all hands on deck, and thus not surprising that Les Freedom Park forgets that it is a national heritage destination whose objectives are social cohesion, nation building, reconciliation, and indigenous knowledge systems. In line with the National Heritage Month theme, celebrating South Africa's living human treasures, the theme speaks to every aspect of Freedom Park deliverables. I therefore would like to thank the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture for such creativity and relevance under the leadership of the Director General. I extend my utmost thanks to the performers for their exhilarating cultural performances that were rendered at this event through music, poetry, dance, and art. As I conclude, let me take this opportunity to pass my heartfelt gratitude to the performers for such powerful and thrilling renditions. My sincere appreciation goes to the event coordinators as well as the entire Freedom Park staff members. Let me take this opportunity to acknowledge the crew members for their sterling execution of this virtual event, the new normal. Lastly, and not the least, I would like to thank all of you, the viewers, and I thank you.